All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are going on a journey you take thousands of times a day, probably without ever thinking about it. We're going to follow a single breath, all the way from your nose, deep down into your lungs, to see what's really going on. So, here's where we're headed. We'll kick things off with the miracle of why we breathe in the first place. Then, we'll travel through your body's built-in air filter, witness the great gas exchange, see what happens when things go wrong, and wrap it all up. Okay, let's get into it.
First up, Section 1, the miracle of breathing. You know, the main gig of your respiratory system is to get oxygen into your blood, and that oxygen is what keeps literally every single cell in your body alive and kicking.
I mean, it just happens, right? It's this automatic rhythm, in, out, in, out. But if you ever just paused and really thought about what's happening, it's this beautifully simple and yet incredibly complex exchange that is keeping you going right now.
You know, it really just boils down to this one simple trade. Every time you breathe in, you're grabbing oxygen, the fuel your cells need to make energy. And every time you breathe out, you're dumping the waste from that process, carbon dioxide. Bring in the good stuff, take out the trash. It's elegant, it's simple, and it's absolutely vital.
Okay, so before that precious oxygen can get to your lungs, the air you breathe needs a little prep work. And that brings us to Section 2, your body's very own personal air filter, the upper respiratory tract. It's a pretty amazing system that warms, moistens, and cleans every single breath you take.
So the journey starts in the nose. You've got these tiny little hairs in there called cilia that act like bouncers, filtering out all the junk. From there, the air flows into the pharynx, your throat, which is kind of a shared highway for both air and food. And then finally, it hits the larynx, or voice box, which is the gateway to the lungs.
And what's really cool is how your throat, the pharynx, is set up to handle both jobs. It's split into 3 sections. The top part is just for air, but the middle and bottom parts, they have to handle food and drink too. So, how does your body keep you from choking every time you eat?
Well, the answer is this ingenious little piece of biological hardware, the epiglottis. Think of it like a tiny leaf-shaped trapdoor at the back of your tongue. It's the traffic cop for your throat.
The way it works is just an incredible reflex. As the source material puts it, the epiglottis swings downward and closes off the laryngopharynx. This little flap does that every single time you swallow, without you even thinking about it, making sure your food goes down the right pipe into your stomach and not into your lungs. It's a genius, life-saving design.
Okay, so the air has been filtered, it's been warmed up, and it's headed down the right path. For Section 3, we are diving deep into the lungs for the main event, the great gas exchange. Right, so after the air passes your voice box, it enters the trachea, or windpipe. That pipe then splits into 2 big tubes called the bronchi. And this whole network of branching airways, it's called the bronchial tree, and it leads right into the heart of your lungs.
So let's meet the key players down here in the lower airway. You've got the trachea, your windpipe, bringing air down. It splits into the 2 bronchi, which are like the main branches of a tree going into your lungs. And at the very end of all those little branches are the alveoli. And these tiny little air sacs are where the real magic happens.
And when I say tiny, I mean they're microscopic. But, and you gotta hear this, there are a ton of them. We're talking about 300 million of these things in each one of your lungs. All those little sacs create a massive surface area for that gas exchange to happen. This is where we get something called external respiration. It's basically the big swap. Oxygen from the air you just breathed in zips through the super thin walls of the alveoli and jumps into your bloodstream. And at the exact same time, the carbon dioxide that was in your blood jumps out and into the alveoli, ready for you to breathe it out. But wait, that's only half the story. That freshly oxygenated blood then gets pumped all over your body. Internal respiration is the second swap. This is where that oxygen gets delivered to all your individual cells, and in return, the cells hand off their carbon dioxide waste for the blood to carry back to the lungs. It's like a round-trip delivery service.
This whole system is amazingly efficient, but it's not invincible. So for section 4, let's take a look at what happens when your lungs struggle and talk about some common conditions that can block this vital pathway.
The difference here is pretty dramatic. On the left, you've got a normal airway. It's relaxed, it's wide open, but during an asthma attack, you get a triple whammy. The muscles around the airway clamp down, the lining gets all swollen and inflamed, and it fills up with mucus. All three of those things work together to squeeze the airway, making it incredibly hard to get air through.
Another major issue is COPD. It's an umbrella term for a group of lung diseases that get worse over time, and it's most often tied to long-term smoking. It includes things like chronic bronchitis, where the airways are always inflamed, and emphysema, which is a condition that actually damages those fragile little alveoli. The result is what's called dyspnea, which is just the medical way of saying it gets harder and harder to breathe.
See, with emphysema, those little air sacs lose their springiness, so they can't push all the air out, and that trapped air causes the lungs to overinflate. The source material has this really vivid description of the result. The rib cage ends up staying partly expanded, giving the chest a rounded shape that's known as a barrel chest.
All right, for our final section, we're going to look at some of the words doctors use to describe breathing, and then wrap up our whole journey with one last thought to take with you. So, before we can talk about what's abnormal, we need a word for what's normal, and that word is eupnea. That's the medical term for the easy, normal breathing you're probably doing right now. It's the baseline for everything else.
And here are a few of the main ways breathing can go off track. Bradypnea. That's when breathing is too slow, like under 10 breaths a minute. Tachypnea, you guessed it, is when it's way too fast, over 20 a minute. And apnea, which you might have heard of with sleep apnea, is when breathing just stops temporarily. You know, this whole time we've been talking, your respiratory system has just been working away in the background, nonstop. Every single day, it performs this incredible life-sustaining job, more than 20,000 times. It's a staggering amount of work that we almost never even notice.
And that brings us to a final thought. Every single one of those 20,000 breaths is a gift. It's a new moment, a first start, another delivery of the fuel that runs your life. So the question is, what are you going to do with them? Thanks for watching.